Howdy, folks. Welcome to the podcast Iron. My name is Laura Mullen Vermilia, and on this podcast, I interview members of the cast iron art community in order to inspire, educate, and spread ideas about iron casting and cast iron art. Today's conversation will be a real treat for you because my guest on this episode is none other than David Lobdell. During this episode, we have an extensive conversation about his background, and he also shares some unbelievable stories of his early days pouring iron. David, thank you for taking the time to let me interview you for the show, but also thank you for everything that you do for this movement and for our tribe. You are present and supportive as an organizer in so many of the cast iron art events, and we're all so thankful for your efforts. The podcast Iron Show is sponsored in part by supporters on Patreon. So thank you to everyone who has joined as a member on Patreon to help me afford the production costs of this show. I am delighted to tell you that the podcast Iron has a new top supporter, and it is the Western Cast Iron Art Alliance. And who is the Western Cast Iron Art Alliance, you ask? Well, established in 2008, the Western Cast Iron Art Alliance is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that consists of iron casting artists in the western states of the U.S. Their goals are to educate, demonstrate, and exhibit cast iron art in the western region, and to accomplish that, they host a conference every 2 years. So if you're a dedicated listener to this podcast, you'll know that the Western Cast Iron Art Alliance just hosted their conference this past October of 2022 in South Dakota. So just look forward and start planning to make it out west in the fall of 2024. There's plenty of time to keep it in mind, and obviously there's no solid dates this far in advance, but I'll keep you informed when things start to develop. But a big thank you to the Western Cast Iron Art Alliance and their board members for helping me afford the production costs of this podcast. For more information about this fantastic organization, visit their website, which is wciaa.org. And a continuing top supporter of the podcast is the one and only Sloss Metal Arts, which is a national center for iron casting and metal art. They are hosting this upcoming national conference, which is going to be April 5th through the 8th at the Sloss National Historic Landmark in Birmingham, Alabama. So for more information about the Sloss Metal Arts program, visit their website, which is slossmetalarts.com, and follow them on Instagram at slossmetalarts. And the conference at Sloss, it's coming up quick. You can register online at www.nccciap.com, which is the conference's website. So go on the website, see what workshops are available, and I believe the deadline to apply for the juried exhibition is March 11th. You can find more information about other opportunities like conference scholarships and ways to volunteer if you want to lend a helping hand. But follow NCCCIAP on Instagram to keep up to date with all of the opportunities as they develop, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you there. And while we're on the topic of iron art events, I have to mention that our guest today, David, is hosting his Iron Tribe event on the campus of New Mexico Highlands University, and that's March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. It will showcase iron pouring, panel discussions, and a curated invitational exhibition for professional artists and educators. So artists from across America will participate in this weekend of great friends, hot metal, and you're going to hear a lot more about it from David in just a little bit, so we should just get on with it. This episode is brought to you by our top supporters, which are the Western Cast Iron Art Alliance and Sloss Metal Arts, so thank you so much for tuning in today, and please enjoy. All right, David Lobdell, thank you so much for being on the show today. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
It's so great to see you. And I want to let's just get the show on the road with, well, David, who the hell are you anyways?
Hi, I'm David Lobdell. It's actually pronounced Lobdell.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No, it's just a lot easier to tell people Lobdell, and that way they can see the spelling in their head, But I'm David Lobdell, and I am a metal casting, ceramic, kind of fire performance, and I do some what do I call it? Environmental drawing work. I've been in New Mexico since '85 and working at New Mexico Highlands University since '91.
There's obviously a lot of things that I want to talk to you about, and I'm going to be coming to Iron Tribe this year, so I'm really excited to talk to you about that. But let's, as is tradition, let's start with some childhood memories, a little bit about where you grew up and maybe some things that impacted who you've become today.
Well, I was born in Lafayette, Louisiana, and raised in Lake Charles, Louisiana. And I lived there until I was, I think, 21 or so. Um, I'm the fifth son of my parents. Uh, my dad was a research and development engineer for oil companies. His degrees were in physics and chemistry, and he became a production engineer for. The longest was for Continental Oil, and then my mother graduated from college when she was 19.
Wow.
Yeah, her father was killed when she was 16. He was just walking down the street. Somebody had a stroke while they were driving and on the sidewalk. Yeah.
No.
And so she immediately got her GED and went straight to college. And so so she graduated when she was 19. She was a English grammar teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so all of our sons knew how to conjugate a sentence and all that sort of thing. But like I say, I'm the fifth one, and I'm I guess officially the oops child. Um, the middle kid was developmentally disabled. All my brothers were born breech, uh, and that made that damaged his brain and whatever. And so there's the dynamic was the whole family was kind of fixed on whatever he was doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all of us are kind of very different sorts of people. My brothers and I were not really we don't have the same personality. Certainly there's some similarities, but we're all kind of different people, and that I think in a childhood kind of setting that created a lot of chaos.
Yeah. With 5 of you.
Yeah, with five of us, and 12 years apart from the first one to the last one, and so in Vietnam was going on. It just started when I was born, and then in the late '50s, um, and there was just I think a lot of social issues and a lot of political issues going on at the time, and given that with all of our varied personalities and stuff, for me it kind of I got to live in my own world, you know, with all of this stuff going on. That's why I think I'm kind of prone to the arts is because of that. When you're kind of left to your own devices when you're a child, your imagination kind of kicks in there, and you can see the world in the way you want to see it. And as long as you don't say anything about it, nobody knows what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Uh, and so there was, that's really where I think that seed was planted, was kind of living in this very loud, chaotic kind of a place, and and figuring out where I fit in it was really my own devices. Now, I also have to say that to my brother's credit, credit, they got stuck with the job of raising me in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
ways,
Yeah.
and so my brothers played as big a part in my upbringing as my parents did.
Yeah.
You know, um, when I was, I think, 6. Lake Charles is 2.5 hours to Houston and 3.5 hours to New Orleans, right? And my family is spread across the Gulf Coast. And I had a great aunt. So I didn't know my grandparents, so I was born later.
Yeah.
And so my grandmother's sister lived in Houston. And so we would go there, and she was kind of my surrogate grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
But her daughter, Becky, when I was 6, one evening, she just goes, "Come on, I'm going to take you to this museum." And of course, I didn't know what a museum was,
Okay.
and it was a show of King Tut's tomb, not the really big elaborate one. There were just a few things: the sarcophagus and the breastplate, with the head thing on
Yeah.
it, and then some scepter things that, you know,
Yeah.
mind. And then just outside that door was a colossal Olmec head,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And at
Yeah.
the time, there were only 8 of them in the world. Nowadays, there's 16 of them, so they're still being found,
Okay.
right? But seeing that big head, that experience really helped me a lot, I continue to be fascinated by ancient Egyptian art.
Yeah.
I love that kind of iconic sort of style. Uh, and, just to think about the production of that work is mind blowing. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm still pretty drawn to ancient art in particular. Uh, I think, mostly due to that experience. And then throughout elementary school and junior high and high school, when I was a kid, my mother would put me in theater productions. Here you're going to go be in a play. Okay. You know, uh, that was pretty cool. I mean, maybe it was just a way of getting me out of the house, or maybe it was just a way of, let's give this kid some, way to express himself, sort of thing. Um, so I did theater stuff, but I always took art classes. I always drew. I had my father had 9 siblings, and so some of his sisters were painters, and one of them pretty prolific. She made a lot of artwork and stuff, and so she talked to me about how to make a pot look round, and
Yeah.
you're gonna have a shadow, and that kind
Uh-huh.
of stuff. And,
Yeah.
of course, I remember all that pretty well.
Good. Yeah. So
Yesterday.
it sounds like it was pretty encouraged and accepted that you were artistically inclined in your childhood.
Yeah, with that came some, my mother was the one that was the I guess, the nurturer, the empath, and then, my father probably said to me at least 100 times, "Well, when the bottom falls out, that's going to be the first thing to go. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're going to starve to death, boy." I mean, he
Yeah.
told me that a bunch of times, and
Yeah.
so kind of between those two, it's like, okay, it's a challenge, and
Mhm.
well, okay, it's part of who I am, and part of what it means to be,
Yeah.
person in this world, sort of
Mhm.
thing.
So then did that roll into middle school, high school artistic inclination as well, growing in your
Yeah,
skill?
um,
Yeah.
in y'all call it middle school, then they called it junior high. And,
Okay.
um, I mean, in junior high and high school, I was the guy that it was everything I could do to talk.
Mm.
I did not talk.
Mhm.
I was the super quiet, introverted dude,
Mhm.
kind of over there on the edge looking in, and that's what introverts do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I happen to be married to one, and he tells me stories like this. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think I was pretty comfortable in that. I mean,
Mhm.
um, I went to junior high. My mother taught at a parochial elementary school, and so I got to go there.
Mhm.
right? You know, and it was a really good school. And then I went to public school in the first year of integration in 1970. And
Wow. Uh-huh.
school was really, it was a battlefield. You didn't go to the bathroom, right? If you went to the bathroom, there's going to be somebody getting beat up, and it might be you, that, you know, football games were, outside of that stadium. I saw, after the game, you got to go to the payphone and call your parents, right? You know,
Yeah.
and see two figures running across the parking lot with like 50 people running behind them. They got to their car and got it rolling, but by the time that car got out of the parking lot, it didn't have a window or a light or like that left.
Oh, wow.
It was like that.
Huh.
And that I think is probably pretty scary for just about everybody involved. But then I got to go to this Catholic high school,
Mm-hmm.
and it had a pretty advanced curriculum, and you got to choose some things. And I was always in the art room, at lunchtime, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And I had some good teachers before her, but Miss Bellard, uh, she would give the assignment to the class, and then she would turn to me and say, "What do you want to do now, David?" She pretty much let me do whatever I wanted to do,
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, you must have earned that from her somehow.
yeah, and I think that she knew my other art teachers, like the one from junior high, and,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody told her not to tell me anything, just put material in front of me.
Wow.
And that's what she did. She just put materials in front of me. And what's this? Well, this is plaster. Oh, read the directions and you can mix it up and make a block out of it and carve it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just super encouraging and just kind of just let me just do my thing. That was pretty great experience, frankly.
Yeah. So did that lead into other art teachers encouraging you to go to college for art or?
Nobody encouraged me to go to college for art.
Okay.
In fact, my dad did everything he could to get me to change my major once he found out. Back then it was called applied art and fine art.
Okay.
What a lot of people I know did, and now look, college didn't cost what it costs now,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And there wasn't so much of a push on this is job training,
Mm-hmm.
then, right? Full time cost $275, 12 hours to 18 hours, just like what you do now.
Wow. Yeah.
That you pay, thousands for, tens of thousands for $275. It was a big rally when tuition went to $312.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, you could go to college and like what I did and what a lot of my friends did. Well, you sign up for applied art, but somewhere along the line, you just check the other box.
Yeah. And just under
And
the
when you
radar.
graduate, it's like, yeah, well, it's a fine arts degree, and parents go, huh? You know. And so yeah, I started out in applied art, but I never took an applied art class ever. I started right in with drawing and design, just like we do,
Yeah.
most schools now.
Yeah.
Uh,
So what, tell me a little bit about your undergrad. Like
in
what
college,
did
I won't say willfully naive. I guess I was just naturally very naive. I showed up and I sat down in front of a guy named Bill Moreland, who was the department chair, and he says, "Well, okay, what do you want to be? What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I want to make sculpture." you know, and I'm not sure that he, heard those kinds of direct answers very much, most people in the arts are kind of searching for themselves, and I'm no different, but I knew that, I wanted to do sculpture is what I said. And he goes, oh, okay. And he looks at me and he looks at my transcript, because I went to school in Lake Charles for a year before I went to Lafayette to go for my undergraduate. Uh, and he looks at my transcript and he goes, oh, you studied with Noel Dast, a guy I went to school with, from whatever 40s or 50s like that, and I don't know why, but I just skipped. I mean, meaning he just put me in the advanced sculpture teacher's class.
All right. Yeah.
He just put me there. I didn't have to go and take 3D design. Well, I see you studied this with Noel Dast. I'm sure you know that pretty good. I got to skip some things just because I was sitting there and because I was so direct about what I wanted to do. Okay. And so I get to work with this guy named Tom Ladusa. And I remember the conversation real well in that I did not know what ceramic meant.
Okay.
And he was, I think he and a couple of students were standing around this box thing, and I go in, I like lean on the box and like, hey man, don't lean on it. Well, how come? Because it's hot. Why? Because it's a kiln. And I'm like, what's a kiln?
Yeah.
Well, it's what you do ceramics in. What's ceramics? Yeah. And they're looking at me like, God, this guy's an idiot. And the teacher says to me, your plates, when you were eating dinner, what do you think they were? I said, I don't know what I thought they were. Mm-hmm. I never questioned it. It was a plate.
Yeah.
Now, when I say I studied ceramics, I didn't make pots. Mm-hmm. I only made sculpture with it, and really that was the influence of that teacher. Mm-hmm. And I have zero regrets about that. Zero. Yeah. Yes, he was a Carbondale graduate, and sure, he knew all about casting, and he knew Tom Walsh was, and Tom Walsh was one of his teachers, and like that. And, but we didn't. We did do some casting in a workshop, and we made sand balls, right?
Okay.
With a mixer and a mm-hmm. prop and like that. Mm-hmm. I didn't, I thought it was cool and whatever. I was pretty fascinated by it. I'm not one that second guesses what's in front of me very much. It's like, mm-hmm. This is this material, this is what you do with it. And I just go, okay, that's what we'll do. And so go make a thing, and then we'll make a mold on it. Yeah. From the day I did that, and pouring that aluminum into that mold was just, look at that. No, I mean, just all giddy and weird about, yeah. Wow, what a thing. And it was different, and so that guy's name was Jack Lewis, and he taught at Ruston, Louisiana Tech. Mm-hmm. And so when I left and went to graduate school, I went there for a year. I didn't particularly want to go there, not because of that place or because of the teacher or whatever, but because I wanted to be. I'd never lived in another region before. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I know who I am in the context of this society, this culture, and what, but I just didn't know what it meant to live somewhere other than the South.
Yeah.
I hadn't traveled very much other than, something I kind of skipped right on over in all of that childhood years stuff. I was a swimmer. Spent the YMCA was second home for me and my brothers.
Yeah.
And so I started swimming when I was 6, and quit swimming when I was 16. And so all growing up, I was in the water.
Yeah.
It's kind of an isolating thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing about being isolated and
Yeah. It's
being
very, you're in your head. Yeah.
yeah, like that,
Yeah.
and so I also think that kind of tuned me into the notion of the elements,
Hmm.
just being surrounded continually by water. My dreams were about water and being in water. Of course, in high school, Louisiana, South Louisiana, you're ankle deep in water all the time. And so, me and my friends, we would go and we'd go skiing a lot, and we'd go camping out on islands that are out in the lake, and
Yeah.
things like that. And there's just really kind of a wonderful independence about that particular element. Water was that's how I went places. That's what I did with my friends and all of that. And so you know, water when I was a child, and then get into some dirt and cook it. You
Yeah.
know, that ceramics is. I know people say, well, how come you're not making ceramic things anymore? I'm like, what do you mean I'm not making ceramic things anymore? I make ceramic things all the time. They're shell molds,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
no, they're not the end result, but
Hmm.
I work with that material every day. And when I think about ceramics, I think about it as kind of the greatest teacher, ceramics,
Elaborate on that for me, because I'm with you, I think, but
well, you're intuitively working with a very visceral material.
yeah.
It's floppy. You got to pinch it or squeeze it or press it into a shape, and
Yeah.
and then it dries out, and then it goes into the kiln, and it becomes something entirely different once it comes out of that kiln. It's ceramic. Not until it
Mhm.
goes to the kiln. And so the elements, of watching and being a part of something that is being transformed,
Yeah. Yeah.
going through quartz inversion, and it's not going to melt down anymore, right? And then putting that coating on there like that.
Hmm.
And I won't say that I became frustrated with ceramics, because that's not true. It's just that it's always inside the box, and you had to look through this little hole,
Oh, yeah.
to
You're
know what's
separated
going
from it.
on
Yeah.
in there. And it was like, of course, I can't be inside there, but when I learned about raku fire
Yeah.
in graduate school, I'm like, yeah, buddy, I'm all about it, because goes to temperature, and then you take that kiln off of there. And I was making these sculptures that were maybe about 3 feet tall, and
Yeah.
I'd have to pick them up. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, wet newspaper,
Yeah.
heavy
Yeah.
gloves, that kind of stuff. Pick it up, and the other thing was, I had seen snow twice in my whole life.
Wow. As a New Englander, that's a wild. It's like when you meet somebody that's never seen the ocean before,
Yeah, yeah, it's like that.
it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah. And
yeah.
so I was at Notre Dame. Then I left Louisiana, went to Notre Dame, and
Hmm.
snow up to your butt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had
Yeah.
never even seen. And, I'd only seen it like in the air.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that element, kind of, well, that really just doubled down on that raku fire, right? Because I can stand there right next to that kiln to be warm. I hate being cold.
Yeah.
Love looking at the snow. I love skiing, but I can't stand being cold.
Yeah.
And that's never going to change. I'm sorry. I mean, some things I can change, some things I can't.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't think you have to change that, especially as a caster. I think you're,
Yeah. And
yeah.
so, and just I guess what I'm recognizing is that the experience of taking that kiln off
Mhm.
of that clay piece or that ceramic piece and putting it in a barrel, is very similar to opening that lid of that furnace and pulling that crucible out, and everything
Yeah.
glow comes up out of there, and that heat wave just kind of hits you.
Yeah.
Um, uh, getting to cast was like, just that feeling and the fascination of watching that element go from a solid to a liquid and back into a solid inside of your mold. That fascination has never really changed with me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always looking for when's the next time I get to do that.
Yeah.
When's the next time I get to do that?
Yeah.
The next time I get to fire this furnace, yeah, for me, it's become, kind of a management thing, where I have to show people and like that. I don't get to pour as much as, as I
Mm-hmm.
want to, right?
Yeah.
Just
And
because.
I have to say, every time I think that I've poured with you, you are you're managing the shells. You're managing keeping them warm, preheating them, moving them into the sand, making sure that people don't pass by a hot shell to go to a resin sand mold. And that's something that over the years I've really admired, is that you make it happen. And like because somebody's got to do it, just like somebody's got to
Yeah.
be on the tower, and
Right.
you're the one that's like
Well,
making
okay,
all
so
the
that's another thing that kind of goes back to my upbringing. My mother, my parents were pretty serious people, maybe not
Mhm.
all the time, but my mother would turn to me and say something, like, okay, this is significant information. I'm gonna have to remember this. What is it, Mom? And it was
Yeah.
oh, again, when I was just a little kid, I don't know what got her onto it, but she said, look, a person has to everybody's got to make a contribution here.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like I said, I'm a little kid. What do you mean
Yeah.
contribution? She said, no, it's not about money. It's about making a contribution with your life, with, the society and the people that you live with. You need to contribute.
Mhm.
Everybody needs to contribute.
Mhm.
And you don't know what that contribution is going to be when you're a kid, right?
Right.
But life leads you. You follow your nose, and you look at the things that you want to do, and all. And out of that, here's a place where I can contribute,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
heating up the shells at a pour. That's my bag. And, I like doing that. Sure, I can do other things, and I oftentimes do, but when I'm at somebody else's house and they need somebody to run the shells, I love doing that.
Yeah. I'm glad that you do, because from the outs and I've come clean about this before, but as an iron caster, I've never done a ceramic shell mold or taken a ceramic shell workshop, because it just wasn't ever in my iron upbringing. Like, we just
Uh-huh.
did resin, and
Oh
that's
yeah,
fine.
you grew up around all those sand molders.
Yeah, yeah, and that's fine. And I think that it's, there's something to look forward to in that. But as an outsider, it seems like a thankless job. So I'm grateful that there are people like you that are like, I mean, in the Western, you guys were hustling. You were busting your buns to get those shells in there, and it was hot.
And we did
And
pretty good too.
you did fantastic. And yeah.
The
So
great thing about
someday,
that was that trough thing that we were
yeah,
setting the molds in. That sand, we put a few. There were some big molds in there,
yeah,
and it really heated up the sand. I mean, the sand was like bubbling. It was so hot,
yeah.
right? And so that's a good thing, because even if they do walk by, go pour a sand mold,
It
right?
keeps
Your
it.
hot shell sitting right there, right? The sand was so hot that it was helping keep the molds on. I was happy about
Good. See, these are nuances that come with the experience of just taking that role. And I would never know that. So,
that.
yeah. All right. Where are we now? Let's see. So we're at Notre Dame. Did I get that right?
Yeah. I
Okay.
graduated when I was 24.
Okay.
I went straight through college because I knew that if I didn't, I wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and true enough, being kind of severed from all of that culture that I grew up with and stuff, I suppose I have to admit that I was kind of lonely. There was every day. I would work from 10 to 10, and then I'd go out for an hour or two, and I could hear the highway. And every day I would think, all I got to do is walk up to that highway, because I used to hitchhike a bit when I was younger. I don't encourage it now, but
Yeah.
uh,
It was a
uh,
different time.
yeah, I could just go up to that highway. I could probably be home in a few days, and then I would go, and then what?
Yeah.
And that kept me there, till I was done with school. And of course, in the midst of all that, I love school. And doing what I'm doing is really what I should do, what I should have done. I made the right choice for myself. You know, um, So yeah, Notre Dame was a really great experience. I had a teacher he was very philosophical, and he always had interesting ways of describing things. But it was always had something to do with art. Everything came out of his mouth, and there was something about art. He really challenged your thinking process, and of course everything that comes with that. And not to say my undergraduate teacher didn't, because he did. Uh,
But it was just reinforced more then and challenged more, just the next
we
level.
were very different people. My undergraduate professor and my graduate professor, very different kind of personalities, but they were both from Wisconsin. One was from Kenosha. Yeah, Kenosha, Wisconsin is in the south,
Okay.
and then uh, the other was from Superior, the other end of the state.
Okay. Which is like, as a New Englander, I'm guessing that's probably like an 8 to 10 hour drive, right? I don't
I've
know.
never done it, so I don't know.
I don't know Wisconsin very much, but Wisconsin is big.
Uh-huh.
Like if you're in Massachusetts, you can drive for 8 hours and you get to Georgia or Florida, right?
Right.
But
Oh, yeah.
you can
Yeah.
drive for 8 hours and still be in Wisconsin, I'm guessing.
Yeah. New Mexico, you can, if you
Yeah.
drive across it, catty corner, like
Yeah.
Phoenix is.
So it makes sense that they'd be, because it's like probably completely different cultures on different sides of the state. Wild.
But
Yeah.
I hadn't traveled, right? And I
Right.
wasn't used to my undergraduate teacher. It probably took me at least a year, maybe 3 semesters, just to figure out what he was saying.
Mm.
He had
Mm-hmm.
such a heavy Wisconsin accent,
Oh yeah.
It
Don't
was,
you know?
it
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
it was funny, but it was also, he's one of those kind of, dogmatic and, got his ideas about things, and you're going to listen sort of guy, and
Mm-hmm.
he'd be talking, and I'd be like, I wanted to know what he was saying,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'd have to make him repeat himself like 3 or 4 times just to figure out oh, that's what you were saying.
Yeah. When I was in grad school in Georgia, I had a buddy who was from Nova Scotia.
Uh-huh.
And so we were like the Northerners, even though I think Nova Scotia and Massachusetts is still 8 hours apart. So we're in Georgia and we were in a ceramics pottery class, and they had a North Georgia potter, like a mountain potter, come and do a demo and stuff. And we were like holding each other and like in awe, because I'd never heard someone like, you do your
Seriously?
you do your knuckle, y'all do your knuckle pulls up like that. Yeah. Like I don't even do it justice, but I was like, just the amazing different dialects that are in the United States blows me away. I love it. I love it, especially now with the internet. You can get exposed to so many nuances. Anyway, so, but understanding, I remember a very scary public bus transportation experience where somebody was talking to me and I had no idea what he was saying. And I was, I don't know, 21 and alone and in Augusta, Georgia, like, and I almost got on the wrong bus because so I can understand that you didn't know what he was saying.
Yeah, I mean, I was a fish out of water up
Yeah.
north, frankly. But the people there were, I mean, what I got out of that was, Midwesterners are mostly, German
Mm-hmm.
heritage,
Yeah.
and they're quite a bit more serious than Southerners are.
Yeah.
I went to my classmates, first week in school there. It was Friday, and I said, "So, who's playing tonight?"
Yeah.
They all looked at me like, "What do you mean playing?" I said, music. And they go, "Oh." See, they, thought I was being weird or something.
Yeah.
And they just looked at me like, "I don't know,
Huh.
don't y'all want to go out? We could get down." The term "get down," where I'm from, you drive up to somebody's house to maybe pick somebody up or whatever, and somebody turns to someone and says, "Are we going to get down here?"
Okay.
It just means get out of the car and go inside, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I said, "Yeah, we can go, we can get down." And they all looked at me like, "What?" You know, I'm like, "Come on, you guys. Uh, food? Do you like food? Food in the Midwest? Oh my God, it's like cardboard." I mean,
Yeah. I know. I live here now and sometimes it's a struggle, but
yeah, I mean, I grew up with the best food in the world.
yeah, I think so.
Maybe the best music too.
Mhm.
Maybe the best atmosphere for it, and all those things that I really took for granted. That once I was in the Midwest, it was, people don't think like that. We don't get to Friday and go, "Okay, I'm gonna call up some of my friends and we're gonna go listen to music and eat some food," so, you know, like that. So that was all very kind of eye opening for me,
Mhm.
being in that other culture. Uh, uh, I mean, I learned how to, really admire. I think all of them for one reason, or all my schoolmates, uh,
Mhm.
for one reason or another. I mean, we were all in a state of becoming, and
Yeah.
having that kind of aesthetic experience one after another, 10 hours, 12 hours a day, every week. That to me, that stuff is, heavenly.
Yeah.
I love that.
What kind of work were you making when you were in grad school?
In myself now, I know that in my heart I'm a funk artist. Funk art. It's not necessarily wiggly. Funk art, it doesn't. Yes, there's a lot of personal narrative in it. Point of view, I think, is super important, and in funk art, and almost always there's some kind of quantum leap of thought, right? Uh, and hopefully somewhere in that journey there's something funny, something humorous, and I kind of find myself in that frame of thought a lot. Wherever I am, I'm always kind of thinking about, well, what's funny about the situation, because there's always some kind of irony going on.
Yeah.
So that humor. But in graduate school, I was an abstract expressionist. I made kind of organic forms that look like chunks of rock that have been chipped away. The coil built clay things that I took a hand saw and sawed away the surface of it, so that it looks like it's cut and chipped like that. And then
Okay.
raccoon fired and
Okay.
So there's some layers in there. It was
And
all
different textures. Yeah.
it was all a kind of visual experience rather than a literal or conceptual kind of experience. Over time, I think that I want things to look attractive, or have a visual appeal, right? But I'm I'm not so much into art that has no meaning. That is just a visual experience. I guess today you would call that design.
Yeah.
Lots of it's a term that maybe I shouldn't have used at one point or another, but mall art. What kind of art might you see when you go to the mall? And just what I mean. You're driving into the entrance and they have some big chunk of steel up there and it's painted whatever bright red or yellow or like that, and it has zero meaning. Maybe the composition, if the composition is what you're supposed to be enjoying about the work, but beyond that, there's, it doesn't lead you anywhere in your mind.
Yeah. I feel like another example of that is what we would say hotel art. You know what I'm talking about?
Same
And
thing.
it's like,
Mhm.
it's nice. It's nice. It's fine
Takes
for
up
a hotel.
Hey, me and Shereen one time we stayed at this hotel in Denver.
Yeah.
And got out of the elevator and looked down the hall, and there's all these pictures down the hall. They were all the same picture. Open up the room, step into the room, same picture, like 3 times. Wow, at one point I found the owner or something. And I asked him about this. He said, "Yeah, well, I just bought this place and that's what was here and like that." But why would the same picture be bought for one place in the first place?
I mean, it shows you how bad it can really be. That bad. It can be that bad.
I mean, the challenge was that. Why? Trying to problem solve that.
Yeah. Did you continue this type of work after you exited grad school? Yeah.
Sure, I did. But branched out a bit more because I had an electric kiln. What I started doing was, my first part-time, per course thing in Lake Charles after grad school was in ceramics, and a designer called the office, and I just happened to pick up the phone. And this woman wanted a tile mural.
Okay.
So pretty much throughout my 20s, I made tile. Some of it was handmade. Some of it I got a construction job setting tile, and I would take all the scrap home and make pictures out of it. And I did that for, I don't know, 5-6 years. It was in a hospital where we did this 120 by 25 foot handmade tile mural. I think it's a beautiful thing, but it's all raccoon fired.
Yeah.
But in a hospital atrium, and where you got hospitals, you got doctors, and they got offices. And I got some phone calls about to come do a thing for my office, and I really liked doing that work. But a couple of years out of graduate school, I moved to New Mexico, and I kept doing that for a few more years. But I got a job at a foundry because I knew how to make a kiln.
Okay.
Yeah. They had this really tall piece that they were doing the whole addition on, and they needed a kiln that it's 2 barrels that stack up on top of each other. But that's how I got a job in a foundry.
Yeah. What kind of a foundry was it?
It
Like
was
an art foundry?
Commercial art foundry.
Okay.
Yeah, it was also a forge, and so the owner was a blacksmith also, and did railings and door handles and things
Mhm.
like that too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So why, I just wanted to circle back a little bit. So why did you move to New Mexico?
Uh, um, okay, I was going to move to Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
St. Louis, or Albuquerque. Uh,
Okay.
I knew it was going to be one of those three. Yeah.
Okay.
And Carmen Zamora um, called me up. She was a schoolmate at Notre Dame and said, "Hey, we got this place in the back, and you can live back there, and take its feet on the ground, sort of thing. Come on, man. This is a really cool place." And truth is, New Mexico is a place where you could throw a rock in almost any direction and hit an artist.
Oh, okay.
There's just a ton of people that are artists of one kind or another.
Uh-huh. So
Uh,
that's what you
I
settled
came
on that.
visited once. Uh, I don't know, just for a few days, and it had snowed, so you couldn't really see the landscape. It was very good.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that was at Christmas time, and then I moved in August. Yeah, from Lake Charles to Albuquerque, and I came into Albuquerque at a place called Texaco, right? Is
Okay.
right on the border by Clovis, and the interstate, that comes from Dallas is further north, and so I was taking a road that paralleled the interstate, right, to Albuquerque, and I think I saw like 6 cars. There was grass growing in the cracks in the highway, and I'm kind of, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But it worked out. Lived
Yeah.
in Albuquerque for I think 4 years. Worked at that foundry for almost 4 years.
Yeah.
Met Green, we got married, all that, and then I got a job at Shadoni outside of Santa Fe.
Okay.
I call it fantasy. Um,
Why?
land,
Tell me.
land of the tragically hip,
Oh.
or the land of affordable neurosis. You can be as neurotic as you can afford to be in Santa
Huh.
Fe. It's a very kind of unrealistic society in that
Uh-huh.
most of the people that lived there came there from somewhere else and made their money somewhere else, and it's almost it is continuous now that there are tourists walking down the middle of the street because they're on vacation.
Yeah.
You understand? You got to go to work, but it's just kind of a fantasy land. Of course, there's some great things about Santa Fe.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, I love going to Site Santa Fe. That's world class stuff there. And then there's commercial galleries there that have all of the who's who of the art world.
Uh-huh.
And so I love it for that. But worked at Shadoni, and working at Shadoni really mind blower. I'd be working on something at work, and then I lived close to downtown, and I'd go walking by the plaza, and I'd look in there, and I'd see something I'd worked on, in the gallery or another artist. Go in there, and you look at this work that's $190,000, and it's sold. My friends did that. There's something about you know confidence level that gives you a real boost, when you're working on things that are going all over the world for ungodly sums of money. And, artists are walking through there that, you know, they got all that swagger and stuff, and
Yeah.
they're obviously, connected to a lot of money, you know, and working with them was another kind of, eye-opening
Hmm.
thing for me, and um, from there, I went to Tucumcari, where I worked at the Tucumcari Area Vocational School.
Okay.
And, but there was 5,000 people in that county. It's the biggest county in the state
Uh-huh.
with the smallest population in the state.
Okay.
So, yeah, Tucumcari, there's some fabulous things about Tucumcari. And then there are some things about it's kind of a lonely place,
Hmm.
it's kind of finite in a lot of ways. But I learned about cowboys and all that kind of thing. Now, we need to get to, aren't you ready to hear my first iron casting experience?
I am, but I feel like we're building towards it. We've
Okay,
got the,
okay. You just tell
so
me when you want to hear that story. So,
I'm ready now.
in Tucumcari, and I lived there for 16 very long months. And then I got a phone call from a dean. Said, "Hey, there's an advertisement for a job here, and maybe you'd want to look at it."
Okay.
It's usually a pretty good indicator, huh?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
they
Oh,
had heard
you know who?
about you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
about me or whatever, And so I applied for this job, and well, I've been here ever since.
Yeah.
And there's been an evolution just as varied as all the rest of the travel stories, all in one place here. That
Yeah.
it's really pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
Um,
So then what happened?
being at Sedona,
No, yeah.
iron casting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, so
okay.
you got this job, but you hadn't done iron casting yet.
Yes, I have. Yeah,
What? We missed it. You let me blow right by it.
at Shadoni.
Okay. All right.
But we look at Shadoni. We poured a ton of bronze every Saturday, every single Saturday.
Wow. Okay.
There's a pile of raw castings. Like 6 feet high.
Wow.
In the middle of the shop.
Yeah.
Always. And every Saturday, boom, more.
Yeah.
That's the metal workers. That's what they worked on. Throughout the week.
Yeah.
It gets a little smaller, but Saturday, boom, there it is like that. So pouring metal and making those shells and burning them out, because it's mostly a shell foundry. Yes, we did do some really big sand molds there also. But there were these two guys that showed up from Iowa, Vince Majori and Brad Neighbor. And they would just go on and on about, some dude, that taught at Iowa, and look, to me, there's a little town outside of Lake Charles called Iowa, spelled just like Iowa. Nobody in that area ever has any intention of going to Iowa. That's something we just don't do that, Iowa. It's over there. That's how you knew where somebody was from. How they would say that word. But yeah, okay. So you go on and on about his undergraduate experience. How people get. They go on and on, and by roll guys or whatever. And we could cast some iron, and we were all like, yeah, okay, I'm in, cool. And so everybody made a mold, or I was into I have vaporized a lot of foam, and so I would make things out of foam and kind of bury them in the dirt and stuff like that. But in New Mexico, when you get directions, they're very intuitive. Go down the road, maybe it's 5 miles, maybe it's 10 miles, and there's going to be a signpost that's green and it's got a picture of, so turn there. Okay, turn there. And, we're talking about the space between Santa Fe and Taos, a little town called Chimayo. And of course, most people who work in the foundry couldn't live in Santa Fe.
Mm-hmm.
It's too expensive. You just don't have enough money. Right. So people lived in all kinds of little crazy little towns and stuff around there. And so, okay, you turn here and you're looking at the directions, and there's a fork in the road that goes that way. And then there's this yellow post, and you pass that up and go another mile, maybe it's 5, and then you're going to turn left at this blue, it's like that. And so you end up turning into, it was a trailer court, but like a circle of wagons. Right, the trailers in a circle.
Yeah.
Space, and that's the driveway for everybody.
Yeah.
And people are sitting there, breaking iron on a stump, just sitting there by breaking iron. Okay, we break the iron. I'm learning this one step at a time.
Yeah. Yeah.
there's this 55-gallon drum sitting in the middle of this of these trailers, right?
Yeah.
And there's a water hose. There's this strange looking thing, with a vacuum cleaner motor on it, and a pipe coming out of it. And I see this water hose hooked to this thing. Okay.
Okay.
Looking at the water hose, and I just followed it. I just followed the water hose, go around behind the trailer, and what they'd done was they had commandeered the gas meter.
Uh-huh.
They just unbuckled it, cut the end of with the threads of it off of the hose, slipped it over it, and put a hose clamp on it.
All right.
That was the burn-in torch. And it went all the way around and out, in the directions. Don't trip over that. Okay. And so, I look back on that, there was no one-way valve or anything. We could have blown ourselves sky.
But you didn't.
But we didn't.
Yeah.
And so, there were 50 people that worked at Shadonia at the time. 50 people on the floor. And a bunch of people, right?
Yeah.
And they all showed up.
Okay.
This is Sunday.
Your day off. Yeah.
They all showed up. And there's this big pile of molds and there's this 55-gallon drum and 3 Kirby's on it, right?
For burning it in?
That was going to be the air. Okay. Yeah. We burned it in. It's all, going while we're sitting there breaking our iron. But, and it was just a 55-gallon drum. Didn't have a lid on it.
Okay.
And of course, I didn't know what foundry coke was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fuel.
Okay.
And so this thing is burned in, and we're all ready to go. We put iron in there and all that, but if you don't draft out of the spout when you're burning in, right?
Okay. Yeah.
The spout will be cold, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the spout was cold.
Yeah.
And there we were. Break the bot and no metal, right? And so then there we go.
Yeah.
Sledgehammer and big chisel, wham, 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 wham. And I don't know how long that went on, but we never got through that tap. What happened was we cracked it at the bottom and it started leaking out of the bottom of the furnace.
Okay.
So we just kind of looked at each other and went, okay, we just shoved the ladle under there.
Caught it underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how we did it the whole time. While we're doing this, and the liner was just fire, clay, and sand, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And it's not the strongest material thing. And of course, the sides of the furnace start glowing, And there's, we're all huddled around this thing, doing like this and doing like this and looking like that. And, nobody was explaining anything. We were just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so it started glowing like that. And, we're all huddled around, throwing stuff in there. And Jeff Broderick comes up and he puts a piece he says, y'all duck. And we do it like this. And he puts fiber on there. And he just starts walking around, just wrapping the whole thing with fiber. And we're holding it up there. And then he walks all the way around us with baling wire.
Uh-huh.
And we're just baling wire fiber on the outside of this furnace. Look, this went on for hours.
Wow. Wow.
I don't know how we melted a pretty good amount of metal. Probably, ton, maybe a little less,
Yeah.
but a bunch of metal. And,
just catching it from the bottom as if it was a continuous tap.
Uh-huh.
Wild.
Yeah. And, maybe there's 10 of us or 20 of us working, and the rest of the people from work, they're sitting there in their lawn chairs, drinking beer, kind of pointing like that, hurry up, would you? And, can't you, all that.
Yeah.
Razzing people too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I left that experience going, hey, there's something other than having to work for a commercial art foundry, right? I mean,
Yeah.
cool operation, got all the goods, got all the equipment and all that stuff, but oh, there's another world,
Mm-hmm.
that's somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Having to work for a business that's got all the stuff, and then this kind of do-it-yourself world.
Yeah.
And for me, that was just boy, there's a lot of moving parts to this. Hard to do
Mm-hmm.
this by yourself,
Yeah.
you know. But I knew that there was something about it that I probably couldn't let go of,
Mm.
and 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 well, just the kind of comedy of error, and
Yeah.
it still worked.
Yeah. Against all odds.
Yeah, it was just. And in the beginning of the day, we're all kind of standing there scratching our heads. At the end of the day, we're all kind of standing there scratching our heads.
Yeah.
But we all knew something had happened there. Something was, oh, this is a thing.
Yeah.
I kind of equated it to in ceramics. It's like what the wood fire people are.
Yeah. I've made that same
There's,
kind of
there's,
connection.
there's
Yeah.
some very definite connections between
Mm.
those two things there. And so, that being the first time was, that was 89, I want to say.
Okay.
Spring of 89.
Okay.
And then, then I went to Tucumcari, then I came here, and
Mm-hmm.
in Tucumcari.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I built this thing.
Okay.
And,
What?
all I knew how to do was, you got to blow some air in there. Okay.
Okay.
And I got a line on some foundry coke. I don't know where I got it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it was a vocational school, so they had a truck driving program.
Okay.
And I asked them if they would go to Alabama
Yeah.
get some foundry coke, and they did.
All right.
Whole belly dump truck. I mean, it was a pretty nice pile of coke.
Yeah.
And so they did that, and I built this thing.
Okay.
And because the farrier science, the horseshoe guy, just walked up to me one day and handed me this newspaper magazine article about Cliff Prokop.
Yeah.
And the coupolette.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the picture, and it wasn't a big article or anything, but it was that article and the picture of this thing there that, okay, I'll make one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did. And they had a bunch of arch brick, for kilns.
Yeah.
And they're wedge shaped. And so I used those for the liner.
Yeah.
There wasn't any clay in it,
Mm-hmm.
other than the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And my next mistake was, hey, look, the farrier science people, they got a bunch of these old horseshoes.
Yeah.
I went, hey, cool. That's iron. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I threw into that furnace. And yeah, it melted, but it wouldn't come out of the furnace.
Okay.
Break the bot, clank, clank, more like a thud.
Okay.
It's glowing and all that, but it ain't coming out of there. So what did I do? Turned it off, got the cutting torch out, cut the furnace in half, dumped everything out, put it back together, welded it all up, put the bricks back, and did it again the next day. The same thing. I didn't know that the horseshoes was the problem. Did I not heat it up enough?
Yeah.
That was the first thing I thought. So I burned it in longer, but I didn't do much. Right. So second day, did the same thing. Turned it off, cut it in half, dumped everything up, put it back together, welded it up, put the brakes back in, and did the same thing. I made 3 of these like 200-pound wads of steel. Yeah, that was disconcerting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you were expecting a different result. Is that what it was?
Well, I was trying to do something different, burn it in longer, break the, didn't work. So, but I still had a big pile of Coke, and I got this job here,
Mm-hmm.
and they just let me take the Coke.
Good.
I filled up my pickup truck 2 times, 2 pickup truck loads, and brought that up. And let's see, a guy named Dwight Hackett owned the Santa Fe Art Foundry, and he had a guy that worked for him named Clark Mann, who was, I think Clark Mann was a Carbondale guy. I'm not sure. He lives, I don't know if he still lives in New Mexico or not, but he had been the sand molding person at Shadoni, and these foundry workers in New Mexico, all of them have worked at all of them. They just kind of moved from one foundry to another, and now they're kind of a conglomerate of independents.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But anyway, that's another thing. Anyway, Dwight Hackett said, yeah, Clark made this furnace, and he fired it once, or I don't know, but he left it here and he doesn't want it. You want it? And it was one of those tall cupola deals. Right?
Yeah.
And the great thing about it was that I got this really nice blower out of it with a very long electrical 220 cord.
Uh-huh.
Did with that. But anyway, we went out to see. I didn't want to do this on campus because then somebody would want to tell me what to do, and I hate that.
Yeah.
So we went out to Matt Eaton's parents' ranch and set this thing up. And
wait. But I still have to interview Matt Eaton. I can't believe that I haven't interviewed him yet. So, but this was before he went and worked at Sloss and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm with you now. I just wanted to clarify for myself.
I think this was his first.
All right.
Experience.
So where did you meet him?
He was one of my students.
Okay. I knew that. He told me that. Okay. He's one of your students, and his parents had a place that you could fire a furnace off.
Uh-huh.
Fantastic.
And so what we do, we cut the top off, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so, and this furnace, the tweers are, man, I'm a long way away from the bed. Really deep well. And of course, I'm thinking that, all right, we're going to do it out there, and that way, we kind of have some autonomy, and we can just, work out our own thing. But no, Matt turned it into a party. He had like 200 people out there. Wow. DJ and a keg, and look, he makes this party out of it. And okay, we'll roll with it, whatever. But continually tell people to get back. And of course, they never do it.
Yeah.
They might step 2 steps back, and then once you start working again, they're right on top of you.
Yeah.
So, that distance there of course, if you don't draft out of the spout, when you're burning in, it's going to be cold.
Mm-hmm. Can you clarify that for me? So like when you draft out of the spout, you don't bot it up?
Correct.
Okay. Got it. I'm with you. I just want to clarify for myself, but also for anybody that's listening.
And then once you finish burning in, you just take the burn-in torch away and go on blast, and you just let it run for a while, and you let it draft out the spout so that the spout is hot. But of course, we weren't there yet.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So that thing was botted up, and okay, time to tap, and you people get back. And they're not getting back. And there's Matt, and so there's, and finally, bam, and this spike, like this of metal. It's like 4 feet long, and it just blasts out of that spout, boom, hits the ground like that. And all those people go running.
Well, they should have gotten back, but they
Yeah.
didn't know. They didn't know. They
Yeah.
didn't know.
Well, yeah, they didn't know. Whatever. But so, all right, we got another tap going, and we're doing like that. And there's one of your questions is about being scared.
Yeah. What's the most scared you've ever been at an iron
Yeah,
pour?
the first time I was scared was we got the tap out, and there we are pouring, and I don't know what we were pouring. We did a lot of kind of janky things that, well, this will melt out. We'll just bury a hole and stick it in there and see what happens,
Yeah.
Well, that kind of thing. And there we were, and I'm down here like this, and I'm pouring. Well, there's all these people,
Yeah.
and my 2-year-old got away from his mother,
Oh,
and
no.
he just goes weaving in through all of those people, and I'm pouring, and I look up, and there's my child's face, like right here.
Oh, no.
He's right here, like, what you doing, Dad?
Oh, no.
He's just standing there like this. I'm pouring. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I was scared then.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just imagining something popping.
Right then.
Got no gear on,
Yeah.
nothing over his face or his eyes, or just
Yeah. Yeah.
stuck like that. That scared me.
Mm-hmm. Rightfully so.
But nobody got hurt. Ultimately,
Amen.
and we came close.
Yeah.
Yeah, my sons have literally grown up around iron.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're both in the military now, but just the last time the youngest one was here, he's looking around, and we're burning in and what. He's going, Dad, can't you make them go faster? Buddy, you want to try? But they know what's going on, and when and how things should be done. I really enjoy that.
Good. Because I actually was thinking about the first time that I ever met you. I was in Fort Hays, Kansas in 2012, and we poured, like we as in the entire conference poured a huge mold.
That was for Eddie Dominguez.
Okay. But I think was one of your sons there?
Yeah, Tony
Okay.
was there.
I feel like you and him were up on the top, pouring from the bull ladle that was on the front end load.
I have a very large photograph of that. It was one of my happiest moments. Pouring this big. Eddie Dominguez is Tobin's godfather. Eddie and I were good friends.
Uh-huh.
He's a person that I met in Tucumcari, and we were instant friends, and we still are good friends now. But yeah, Tobin was working on his piece. It was some grant that Eddie had, and so Tobin had a little job working for him.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But pouring that mold, that was a blast.
I remember because I don't remember exactly like if it was like if there was, I'd have to look back at the pictures because there's a lot of great pictures from that moment. But it was like, I remember somebody like handing me a shovel and saying like, protect their feet because the iron was flowing and also kind of like sparkling around you guys. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, like when someone tells you to do something when you're like 22, 23, you just do it, but maybe when you're a little bit older, like 30, 35, you might like a little mortality kind of effect is set in. And you're like, whoa, right after you, sir. But I ran in there and covered one of your shoes. And then that's always been.
Thanks.
Yeah. And it's stuck with me. That was the first time I had been to Sloss, but being at that Western really changed my life and like exposed me to so much more.
Nice.
And the depth, I think, of the community in a way that Sloss, there's always so much going on at Sloss that I felt like having the Western, it's a different vibe, definitely, but also it gives you time to like really soak in things,
Yeah.
and it's more intimate. So yeah, I felt like I got to know a lot of people at that pour. Yeah. Anyways, I always just remember that. And I was going to ask you whatever happened to that casting, because it was a big casting. We had to, that was the first time I'd ever seen.
Delivered it to Roswell, I think is where it is now.
Okay. It was it a head? It was a head.
Body.
A body.
Didn't have a head.
I don't think, that's what it was missing. Because I never saw the pattern. I don't think I ever saw the finished casting, but
Right.
I remember the mold, and I remember
Eddie's work has a lot of carving in it.
Okay.
He makes a clay thing and then he carves it. He's a really outstanding carver.
Yeah.
And so there's these patterns all over the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it was shaped basically as a torso from waist to shoulders.
I feel like it was like, was it 2 tons? Am I remembering that correctly?
Oh no, it was more like 1,500 pounds.
Okay. I remember seeing, we like ran the furnace up to the top slagger and tapped into the bull ladle, and then ran the furnace up again. And we tapped into that ladle twice, because I remember that was the first time I'd ever seen someone hold metal in a ladle. And me, like, I was a kid and I had just like been casting for maybe only 3 years at that point. I was like, aren't you afraid that the iron is going to get cold? And that, well, you know what I mean? It was just like, we
are afraid it's going to get cold.
Well, I can't remember.
Sometimes that works great and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
It depends on the piece. But that piece poured, I had to cast one little section of it and weld it in, and I did. So, both of my kids have gone with me to Tucumcari. I go there every year, and we just produce metal. That's all we do.
Yeah.
Run a furnace, and I used to take a furnace there. Butch, he looks at a little furnace. Lobdell, you know how he talks. And those furnaces are good for about 16 taps, and then they freeze up, But until then, you're doing fine. And I just kind of looked at him. That day, Tobin and I tapped that furnace 40 times.
Wow.
Yeah, it's our record. It's 40 taps out of one of those little. But Scooby-Doo furnace was made out of a trash can.
Yeah.
That was a 35-gallon barrel. And for years, I would walk by going, make a decent furnace, and move it around, like that. And so, I just, particularly with the way Butch talks, wanted to defy that.
Yeah. And you did.
Yeah.
So it's on the record now. Let it be known on the record 40 times out of, was it the Scooby-Doo furnace? Is that weird? Yeah. All right. Not to be underestimated. Well, so where are we now? We're in, you are at, okay. So it was, you ran the furnace at Matt Eaton's parents' house after cutting the top off of it, but the tweers were really far away from the bed. That's where let's pick up there.
Okay. I don't think that furnace is run again.
Yeah. Okay.
It may still be out there. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. So you remember the bit about my mom saying, make a contribution.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I got to go on sabbatical in 2000. And one of the things I did was I went to Scotland for George's.
Yes, I've heard a lot of
and so kind of got to see that, and the grant I wrote was about studying furnaces and sand molding.
Mhm.
And so, after the crowd cleared out in Scotland, after the first passed and all that, I started making sand molds, and then I poured, out of the furnace that they had there,
Yeah.
a GSU style furnace, right? It's got a
Yeah.
big box, and maybe the tweers are staggered. I'm not sure. We hadn't gotten to the two slagger furnace yet, right? Uh,
Mhm.
uh,
Okay.
but that was the place where and Lumsden is a very remote place, and I really liked, learning without a big crowd.
Mhm.
I don't like people standing over my shoulder. I know maybe it's a weird thing for a teacher to say, but I'd rather you be in front of me, right?
Mhm.
Rather than standing there, breathing on my neck.
Yeah.
Stand over here. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that. And so ran that furnace, and Jenny and Ingy helped me pour, and Eden Jolly helped me pour, and that was this really great experience. I did that for a month, and then went to Sloss for 2 months, and of course there was this continual kind of parade of people going through there, and well, we were pouring at least a couple of times, maybe 3 times a week.
Okay.
uh, uh, um, and I got to meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, and every one of them taught me something. Whether it was just me looking at what they made. Kevin Shunn makes the most beautiful sand mold you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know none better. Right,
Mhm.
like that. I met him when he was in graduate school and saw these molds, and I'm asking him, so who taught you how to make these molds? Did Walsh teach you that? He goes, oh no, Walsh didn't talk to me. I learned it from my other class.
Mhm.
Uh, and then, well, the rest of it is all Kevin, right? With him being super meticulous about that parting line, and
Mhm.
just he's just how do you say? Um, oh, the word will come to me. But just a beautiful mold, right? And so I get home, and I go, I should organize a show.
Uh-huh.
And so I got all the emails of all the people because I just learned email, right? And um, asked them if they would send a piece and do a show. And it was really entirely out of my gratitude for them showing me or talking to me. I mean, there was a couple of people that I just called them up on the phone and asked them a question, and then 2 hours later it was, well, thank you very much. And I never met one goes from Eastern Oregon, and I think he's gone now. But just people would just give me information. They would just give it to me. George just goes, yeah, okay, I'll send you something. I get this big envelope in there, and there's you know BSI and the sizes of everything, and all the specs and all that. And people were just very forthcoming with information,
Yeah.
and like that. And out of my gratitude for that, I made this show. Well, then somebody called up and said, so when's the pour?
Oh.
And I'm like, maybe we need to have a furnace. Oh, okay. So I built a furnace. Your ma,
Yeah.
because in Britain, if here when you smart off to somebody, your mama,
Yeah.
right? Well, in Britain they say your ma, and so the first furnace I made was your ma, and I don't know, maybe 25 people showed up for the exhibit opening, and then the next day we had a pour. It worked.
Yeah.
And then, of course, what does somebody say to you right after you drop bottom?
Good job. Thank you.
Oh, no.
No. Where's the beer?
When are we going to do this again?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the moment the bottom
Like,
drops. When are we
yeah. Yeah.
Damn it, dude.
Yeah. When can we do that again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When can we do that again? Because we got a furnace now.
Yep.
Yeah. And I was burning that coke that I got from Tunin Care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we poured some more and ran out of that coke. And then it just became this thing, well, to a lot of people, it's the pour. And some people, it's the performance thing. To me, it's the exhibit. That's where that started, was have this exhibit and everything is built around that.
Yeah.
And so coming up is the 11th time. We do it every 2 years.
Yeah.
Right? And so, yeah, we did it again. And then we did it again. And then we started doing, I had these students that were chemistry and physics guys.
Uh-huh.
A couple of them were really smart. And they, did we? John Hockmeister came.
Uh-huh.
He did this fabulous piece where he had a stack of books and he drilled a hole through all the books, right? And I don't know if he glued them or clamped them all together, but then he packed steel shot and thermite and steel shot and thermite and steel shot and thermite, right?
Okay.
In the hole inside of the books.
Okay.
And then there was a pour spout with an open face mold on a book. And I'm crazy about the whole book thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm into that.
Yeah.
And he lights that thing off, and it was, you couldn't look. No, I met him in New Jersey. That's good. But he came and did that, and then these guys started going into the chemistry lab and making their own thermite, and then bringing it in and to the pour. And I don't know what they were doing. What were we doing? We're stuffing it into logs and things like that. And so at the end of the production pour, we would just tack on some performance stuff.
Yeah.
And it went off. Then we did it again. And then we made it better. And then we did it, it just kept going. And it's like I could not have foreseen that.
Mm-hmm.
It was something that kind of took on a life of its own.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, "Oh, what's the next pour?" We're gonna do that again. I think we should do that again. And out of all of this, of last 20 years, I think of it as this is my contribution to the movement has been this gathering, this exhibit. I'm always just really blown away when people show up, and that's what I love about this, this tribe of people. Mm-hmm. They'll show up.
Yeah.
The term tribe comes from, I was having a conversation with Eric Johnson when I was at SLOSS in 2000. Mm-hmm. It's a Sunday afternoon, and Eric Johnson, he always had an ice chest in the back of his truck, and a half full of water with maybe 3-4. He called them half warm Busch beers in there. Mm-hmm. And I don't drink beer, but we're just having a conversation while he's drinking his half warm Busch. Mm-hmm. And I was explaining to him that yes, I'm doing this residency thing, but I don't feel like I'm some part of it or whatever. I'm the guy. I'm the outside guy looking in. I didn't go to school for this, mm-hmm. Right? I don't have any of that lineage kind of connection to anybody. Mm-hmm. No specific person taught me this stuff. Yeah. And then we started talking about the people, and well, like I mentioned before, foundry fights, and I don't really want to talk about them, but I have seen them,
Yeah.
And so, all these people show up and they come together to run this furnace and to do this kind of business, but we didn't all go to school together. Mm-hmm. we're multiple generations,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We don't make all the same kind of artwork,
Yeah.
right? And that's the one thing that made me want to make a show, was because we were always showing up at these things, pouring our metal into the molds and then going home.
Yeah.
I didn't know what people made. I made
Yeah.
friends with people and I had no idea what they made.
Yeah.
So that was the other idea about, let's have an exhibit, and
Yeah.
so see what people make.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's really where all that came from. And we're talking about the group of people, and he says, well, yeah, a lot of people call it the iron community. I'm like, community,
Yeah. Yeah.
forgive me, but it's kind of like a mushy, crybaby kind of a word.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No,
but
don't be sorry. I
and,
I mean, I
and I
hear
was,
that.
and I was just kind of looking for what's the word that best describes this bunch of people that show up at these places that ain't all the same, but we're all going to do this together. And my word is tribe.
Yeah.
It's maybe we're kind of like cousins or something that don't know each other very well, but
Yeah.
there's that kind of a feeling about it. And so Iron Tribe is, and it certainly that fits a New Mexico kind of identity,
Yeah.
right? And so that's where the title for that came from. Is talking to Eric, whom I miss dearly. What a beautiful person he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I got to, this thing about setting up shows. And
Yeah.
I was telling you, you didn't know you were going to be doing this 5 years ago,
No.
right? Setting up shows. I set up that show, and man, I really like doing that. I
Yeah.
really like doing that. I mean, I always like moving the furniture around in the living room,
Hmm.
kind of feng shui in it or whatever, and seeing how this goes with that. And when you're standing here, you get this vantage point. When you're standing there, you get that one. And, you don't know what your skills are going to be.
No.
And as it turns out, that's one of the things I'm kind of good at. And I really like doing it. And so I just kind of, anytime there was a spot where you need somebody to hang some stuff, I do like that,
Yeah.
and I got to be a juror for the New Jersey I don't know if it was a national or international conference, but I got to be one of the jurors for that. And, those buildings were fantastic. They were all glass and steel. And they were huge. And, there was just all this work and all these people showing. I mean, I was in heaven, setting up that. And with that came, I'm looking at this piece, they were slides then, 2 or 3 carousels of slides. I'm looking at this piece, and that thing is weird, and I don't like it. What it was about 2 foot chicken head on
Okay.
the floor with a bunch of iron rattlesnakes.
I know this piece.
Yeah, yeah. And so I get to New Jersey, and there's this piece, and well, I call it the showstopper. I always want to put basically my favorite piece right in front of the door.
Yeah.
You walk in the door and you have to stop. I hate it when people like run through galleries. I want to slow them down, and so I put that piece there. And somebody I was talking to, they said, yeah, that's Dan Hunt's piece, and I'm like, yeah, what's he like, And they go, well, he's a curious sort of fellow, got this mustache like this, and he's kind of a weird guy, and I go, as weird as me? Well, maybe. And he came walking in. There's his piece, and another one of those. I knew I liked this guy before I met him.
Yeah.
We were instant friends.
Yeah.
And from then on, of course, he had a bizarre kind of sense of humor, and anything about Monty Python would mean that you're going to go off on this tangent, a fun tangent, but all the same. And that's how I met Dan Hunt.
So I know I keep talking about that Fort Hayes Western, but it really did. I already told you it really did change my life. And so that was the first time I saw any of Dan Hunt's work. And it was a big rabbit foot.
Yeah, with the giant keys on it.
Yeah, all fabricated
Uh-huh.
and cast.
Yeah, the
Like
keys.
I feel, oh man, and that I always have been intrigued by like the concept of size and what making something big miniature is what I typically do. And I had been kind of doing in my grad studies, but then to
He
see
does the other
something,
way around.
yeah, yeah,
He's a
just
master at that.
blew my mind. And then before he did his keynote speech, though, Toby introduced him, and Toby told this story about how he was applying for the Fort Hays, Kansas job, and so he came to Kansas for the interview. And when he was there for the interview, he went out and visited Dan Hunt.
Hmm.
And I feel like in the story, I mean, I have to have Toby on. We're in the works of working out a date and stuff, but it was just like, to me, sitting in that auditorium full of people, like the furthest west I'd ever been in my entire life as a New Englander, and seeing how you can come into a state, like drop into a state, and you already have a, a family member, or you already have kind of like somebody.
A tribal member.
Yeah. It really struck me that that was like a powerful thing, that, there is this connection that even if you don't know somebody that well, they can still be a rock for you to lean on. And that actually happened. Hold on, something crazy just happened with my computer. And then I was coming from the University of Georgia, moving to St. Louis with Allison and Noah in St. Louis, and Jimbo and Leanne had said, if you need anything, these are some people that you can contact. Because I was going alone. I didn't know anybody in St. Louis. And so I met them at the Western.
Oh,
And
that's
then,
nice.
yeah. And then moved to St. Louis and immediately was involved in helping, like, it immediately evolved in 6 Mile, because they were having 6 Mile conferences.
Well, if you know Noah at all, he's gonna put you to work.
Yeah. I have to have him on too, but I remember like maybe it was the second year that I was in St. Louis and I was helping out. Isaac was doing a residency at 6 Mile, and I also was helping out, and the two of us were kind of like running the sand mold workshops and stuff. And I remember like talking to Noah about it, and he was like, yeah, he and Allison were just so glad to have people that we could trust to like run the sand and know that the sand molds were being taken care of. And I was so just happy that someone trusted me with something, because I didn't, I think at that point I was so fresh. I just wanted to have validation that somebody trusted my knowledge, and they were like,
Yeah.
yeah, go. So it's,
Yeah. Once you show somebody you can do something, you get a job.
they'll put you to work. Yeah. Yeah. So, but it meant a lot, even though I was put to work, it meant a lot that somebody trusted me to be put to work. Anyways, wow, we've gone on this great side stories though. Where
Well,
are we now?
out of the Iron Tribe thing,
Yeah.
people started showing up, and we, kind of organically, I guess, or naturally, kind of identified ourselves, and we don't all live along the Rocky Mountain chain, but Mark Gilbo was with Reen at the time,
Mhm.
and he wrote this grant for us to go do a pour in Vail, Colorado, in the middle of winter. Well, the thing about Vail, Colorado, their sidewalks are heated.
Oh.
Yeah. And then we were on this bridge thing, and he wrote this grant. And, I mean, it was fat. Brought George from Atlanta to give a talk in the library, and
Mhm.
and then all of us showed up. When I say us, who is we who are now the board for the Western Cast Iron Art Alliance. Well, it was, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the morning, and you know what that looks like, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And and Mark just jumps up and says, "Hey, let's let's make this a let's make this an organization, and we could get 501c3 status and do like that." And I mean, of course, Ted would say something like, "Yeah, we can make a flotilla, to somewhere in the Middle East or something, you know." uh, and so and you know uh, Mark thought that my involvement has something to do with my ego, and honestly, it's not that I'm egoless, but I don't do this for my ego.
It's
I
your
mean,
contribution.
it's my yes, it's my contribution, and it's not really an obligation. I don't have to do it.
Mm-mm.
But out of the Iron Tribe came this Western Cast Iron Art Alliance thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And Mark says, "And David, you'll be the president." And I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess I did okay with it or whatever, But I think Tommy does a great job,
Yeah.
But anymore, I think any one of us can step into. We've created this group that, well, one, we don't have to drive 20 hours, and that's kind of one of the motivating elements of it.
Yeah.
20 hours. That's what it takes for me to go to SLOS,
Mm-hmm.
and going to SLOS takes everything that I have. The maximum amount of time I can take away from work, empties my bank account. I mean,
Yeah.
all of it takes all of my energy. And, at the end of it all, then you've got to drive 20 hours.
Yeah.
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 And so let's do this. Let's do it. We'll call it the Western, and we're all within a day's drive of each other, Denver's only 4 hours from me,
Mm-hmm.
and so we've created this environment, and people, I think, have gotten to know the West in general better because of us. But we I guess you can't help but have a slightly different character to it, than what SLOS looks like. Is this huge hustle,
Yeah. Yeah. I do.
and a
I
whole bunch
referred to
of
that
people.
earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, and not that we don't want people, but we're very happy with having the kind of event that we can afford to have.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to have everybody on the planet, but hey, you're all welcome,
Yeah.
kind of a thing, and everybody's got something to contribute.
Yeah.
We all have slightly different skill sets. Um, but over, well, the last, what is it, 14 years,
Yeah.
we've all, kind of taken turns, and you do the exhibits this time, you do the shell workshop, you do the same, and
Yeah.
we've traded places enough times that we can all do whichever job there is.
Yeah.
And we're all pretty open to ideas.
Yeah.
Oh, we can do this differently.
Yeah.
So let's try it.
Yeah.
And so we did. And like this last one, we were pretty apprehensive. It had been 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
We were all planned up, and then boom, we get locked down, right? And so what does that do? For us, it just kind of extended the whole process of working out the details. Then we had to change, we had to have the conversations about, do we do things online? You know, um,
Yeah.
you know, like Sloss did the last time.
Yep.
We weren't interested in that.
Yeah.
Um, uh, just we had all those conversations over again, deeper, and then change gears.
Yeah.
And so by the time we got there, all of us were like, I don't know, man. I just hope we get through it, and kind of like we're all trying to look for the end.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And what happened? You
It
know,
was
what
fantastic.
happened was just like I just everything went together so well.
Yeah.
You know, it had a lot to do with it being in a small town,
Mm-hmm.
right? You
Mm-hmm.
know, we didn't have to, you know, there wasn't a lot of hassle getting from one thing to another thing.
Yeah.
And we could be in public and we could be on campus. You know, we could do all the things that we needed to do with almost no space in between.
Uh-huh.
You
Yeah.
know, and we've all kind of worked out our characters.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's a bit like a play, I suppose. You know? And there's all these elements, and you know, the director is the host, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And we're always very supportive of whoever the host is. We try to facilitate to have the conference that they want to have,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, and if they want something a particular way, we're sure to do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, uh, but but and we're gonna have a carnival, and David,
Yeah.
you're gonna, you know, and I'm like, I'm gonna dress up like a clown.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna, am I gonna do that? No.
And it was so fantastic. Like one of my favorite photos I have is of you in the bathtub train dressed up like a clown. And that was the first time that I saw Noah driving that little car or little truck thing, you know, it, just
So the carnival, of course, was Toby's idea, but everybody kind of played into it,
yeah,
you know,
added
in
their
a way
own.
that made what could have been a total flop. You know, could have
Yeah,
been.
it could have
Uh,
been.
um, we took this kind of dumb idea and made it just made it a good one. And
Yeah.
it was so much fun. And you know that the people in the neighborhood there didn't know. They see we were doing this for, you know, the conference
Right.
participants.
Right.
We were in a public park.
Yep.
You had
Yeah.
permission to be there and all
Yeah.
that. But the people that lived in the neighborhoods and what they didn't know,
Yeah.
they just saw, oh, carnival.
Yeah.
Let's gather up the kids and take them on over and buy some tickets. And they put their 3-year-old in this bathtub right in front of me, you know, and he's looking at me like, and he didn't change.
The whole time.
I didn't want him to freak out, you know, because he was kind of like, it
On
could
the
go
edge.
this way, it could go that way.
Yeah.
You know, and I was trying to make him laugh, you know. But
Yeah.
no, he didn't laugh. He just
Yeah.
like
Cause that was right when I was gonna get in on my right. Like I paid my tickets and it was gonna be me and Woody and I can't remember who else was gonna maybe go in the 3 bathtubs, you know, 1, 2, 3. And we turn around because now they're selling at this point, Cassie is selling those Little King beards. So I turned my back. I was like trying to get into the, like, I have footage of me getting my foot into the bathtub, but then they're like selling these Little Kings. And so I turn my back, I buy a fake goatee with bead on it. And I turn back around and there's a child in the bathtub.
mm-hmm.
And we're like, cause Noah was like, whose kids are these? And I'm
Yeah.
like, I have no idea. And he's like, no, but like, we can't, he's like, I can't drive around with these kids if I don't know whose their parents are. And I'm like, I know. And so we're like, where are your parents? Where are your parents? And the kids are just, they got balloons. And I'm like, who gave you the balloons? And they were like, that guy with the bones on the top hat. And so I ended up, they were like, no, go with the kids. So I ended up getting in a bathtub with a little boy that I didn't know.
Uh-huh.
Because they were like, oh yeah, that's our parents over there in the blue sweatshirt. And so then the parents come over and Noah to the dad is like, is it okay if I drive around?
That's the family I'm talking about. Yeah.
And the guy's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And so I have footage of me in with this little boy and a balloon in a bathtub driving around some park. And I'm like, I can't even believe that this is real life right now. Like,
yeah, like that. And then the performance right after that.
Yeah.
Right?
I felt like it was It was a good
And
palate cleanser,
yeah.
from the work of the mold making and the shell molds and all that intensity. And then we just went and had fun and
Uh-huh.
then went to the performance.
And that performance, that furnace ran like a monster. That
Oh
was a
yeah.
furnace. It was perfect.
Yeah. That furnace ran like
Yeah.
like a beast,
Yeah.
like just,
And that's a key part of, excuse me.
mm-hmm,
That's a key part of doing performance stuff is to have metal ready
mm-hmm.
as often as possible. I mean, we've been to performances where, costume change or whatever, and there's a bunch of people standing out there in the dark
Yeah.
waiting for something to happen.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going on in that furnace. It's just the
Yeah.
people standing around that know what's going on in there. So,
Yeah.
you know, that part of it is something that I think it is the challenge, just to make sure that you always have metal
Mm-hmm.
pretty much always ready, so you can do every little part. And Kelly got to do his thing, and
Yeah.
Rich and Brett got to do their thing.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it, I suppose, was um,
The workshop.
Chris doing his elements to it.
Yeah. And then there was the performance, like that was a workshop, I think, where they
Uh,
made, right? They made molds,
they call them thunder
thunder
boxes.
boxes. Yeah.
It's a hole in a stump. You turn it into a cannon.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
And that's what's so great about our tribe. I will tell you this one little thing. I've always held off on using the word tribe because I felt like it might be stepping on your toes.
I'm just coming up with a word that describes the group.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no toes here to step on.
All right. But I'm glad to hear that because I might start using it more in my language. Cause the amount of times in the intro and extro, outro, whatever that I say community, you could
Yeah,
play bingo with it. Just like
sure.
community, and it's fine because I'm trying to have descriptive language.
You need a word.
Yeah. I say family a lot, but so I'll start
We're
using.
clearly family.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway,
yeah. So
but then
let's see.
again, some of us are, right?
Yeah.
There's people that I think we're all very close to one to the next.
Yeah.
Different circles overlapping.
Yeah. And if we think about like the whole generational aspect of it too, that is the theme that comes up, when certain people talk about being of a certain generation, and it's important to some people and it's not as important to others.
I didn't pour iron until I was 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
All of this has been in the last 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
And time just evaporates. I mean, and there's really no difference between the older ones and the younger ones, other than the older ones have been around doing this a little longer, right? Maybe
Yeah.
there's some things you should be learning from them, but having multiple generations is how a movement continues.
Mm.
Yeah, gotta,
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's something anybody anticipated. We've just found ourselves in it,
Yeah.
and you look up one day and all that time has evaporated, and there's somebody there thinking, oh, whatever, you've done this so long. Well, what else was I gonna do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Stop.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that people in this tribe are kind of like that. It's like, well, what else would I do? I mean, there's nothing better to do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
come on. I get to be a ceramicist, and there it is outside of and get to monkey with the fire that way. And, fire has become this whole other kind of meaning for me that has spawned a whole other sort of series of things that I do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But it all comes from this activity and the kinds of things that we've learned, casting iron.
Mm-hmm.
Bronze too, I mean, in the beginning, everybody was a bronze caster.
Yeah, usually everybody's story starts off with a little bronze or aluminum.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Yeah. It's part of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I love aluminum for some things. I mean,
Yeah.
patinas on aluminum are like really permanent. They last longer than any other metal with patina on it.
Uh-huh.
It's astounding. I mean, some of the things that like Matt and Aaron did in the 90s, I saw them, I don't know how many years ago, but looked like the day after they made them.
Yeah.
Whereas, bronze and iron, they don't want to do
Yeah. Yeah.
that. Um, so
They all have their
we were all
strengths.
bronze people beforehand. Not that we aren't now.
Yeah.
Just that iron brings all these little other elements to it.
Yeah.
And there's this question here about what do I love the most about the iron casting process, and it's the rhythm of it.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
and there's this sequence of events and cycle in there. I mean, I read articles about 5 characteristics of the happiest people on the planet,
Yeah.
and cycles, people that work in cyclical processes, where
Oh.
there's a there's a conception, a conceiving stage, and there's a designing stage, and there's a production stage, and then there's an execution stage, and then of course you got to finish that thing, and then it goes off to a show, and then you go back and you make another one,
Yeah.
maybe better than the last one, or maybe it's a different thing entirely, but it's that cyclical process that
Yeah.
I, I, I love it,
Yeah.
and I can't stop.
And I'm glad.
I mean, I don't. It's not just my job that has enabled me, but certainly my job has
Yeah.
enabled. But I continue. I want to be doing this, when I don't work here, that kind of thing too. So, just that whole rhythm and the kind of industrial ballet that we go through,
Yeah.
and once you've done it a time or two, you can just look at somebody and kind of gesture to something, and they'll look at it. They know what you're talking about, and you can go through this thing almost without talking.
Yeah.
What was it, maybe a year and a half ago? Three of us poured 1,000 pounds, just three of us.
All right. Where
No,
were you?
here at
Here.
home. You know,
Okay.
where do I like to pour? Wherever we're pouring.
Oh, yeah.
Wherever that is, But I mean, I've done residencies and worked in other places and all. And you'll really do your best work at home.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to spend 20 minutes looking for the hammer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or having to walk 1,000 steps like it's sloths.
Yeah.
Drop the wrench in the dirt. You've got to go find another wrench.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard Matt talking about
Yeah.
that.
Good
I
callback.
was,
Yeah.
in fact, I think I was there.
Yeah. Yeah. You may have
Like,
been.
who's got the wrench? And everybody looks at the ground, and there's another one down, and you got to walk all the way over there. So working at home, you're probably going to do your best work.
Yeah. Let's see. So are we where did we cover the journey up to so far? Do you think we've reached where you are now?
Sure. I
I mean,
mean,
we don't have
all,
to. We don't
all
have
these
to.
fabulous people that I've gotten to know. The second thing that I love about it,
Yeah.
I've crossed paths and become friends with all these people that have very similar interests. And there's not a one of us that isn't kind of quirky in some sort of way.
Yeah.
They got their thing, and everybody knows their thing, and you leave them alone about it. They can be that way.
Yeah.
And I love being involved in such a. When I say diverse, I don't necessarily mean with physical things, but with their you know lots of different kinds of senses of humor,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the stunts that we pull on each other, is
Yeah.
all fun. And just I've made some of my best friends through this movement,
Yeah.
and I'm really grateful for all that.
Yeah.
Got to get to meet these kind of pretty cool, very capable, super skilled in one way or another, but kind of odd in another way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's something also about the nature of the nature of the need for perseverance and being okay with a lot of hard physical labor. I feel like kind of weeds out a
Oh,
level
yeah.
of people that you might not click with.
There's no such thing as a casual interest in iron
Yeah.
casting. I don't think that exists.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Let's see what other things.
I have
I don't want to miss
several.
anything.
I've built several furnaces, but I've also modified other furnaces. Like Matt and Biz, they were moving from Nebraska to New York, and
Yeah.
David Jones shows up with this trailer and says, "Yeah, they're giving you this furnace here." Okay, cool. Uh, um, Another time when I was really scared, right, in the last 10 years was we're doing the waterfall with 3 ladles.
Yeah.
Your
Uh-huh.
whole one ladle, you fill it up, you tip it, it fills
Yeah.
up the second one, it fills up the third one.
Are you
And
coming out of the tap? Are you in
yeah,
front of the
right,
furnace?
with
Okay.
a short tap,
Yeah.
or with a short spout.
Okay.
Right? And so, and the second ladle got dropped. That was scary, And so what I did was, instead of doing the waterfall, which is really fun and whatever, beautiful and
Looks
challenging and
great.
all that,
Yeah.
just the kind of nightmare injuries that could happen there.
Yeah.
I'm going to my feet a little bit, like that.
Yeah.
What I did was, Donnie King has a spout on his furnace. It's like 10 feet long.
Okay.
Oh, hey, I can just make like a 4-foot, trough,
Yeah.
line that, and that way the ladles can stack up behind it. Right?
Uh-huh.
We've got 2 teams of people back there, 1 team in the front, they fill theirs, second one slides up, third one slides up like that, and it eliminates that danger.
Yeah. That constant, because the first ladle and the second ladle are holding
Right,
the weight.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes people aren't expecting that to
Yeah.
go on like that. And so, that's the one modification that I'm super happy about. I think that all Coupolette furnaces should have little tines up on the top so you can stick your ladle up there to preheat it.
Okay. Yeah. I've seen that. Yeah.
A tank of gas used to cost $45, and now it's 60. So
Yeah.
it's $60 right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad was an efficiency expert.
Mm.
And I guess he kind of drilled some of those things
Yeah. You
into
got
me.
a little bit of it. Yeah.
But it just makes so much sense. That
Yeah.
I think that all furnaces should have that. I'm really fond of the double and triple slaggers.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a fantastic innovation. Um, the one that I have not done is the pour back spout.
I don't know.
What's his name? Dan in Chicago.
Dan Matheson.
Yeah. Made a pour back spout. When you got a little left over, instead of pigging it, that's energy.
Yeah.
And not energy that's in the ladle, but the energy of the breaking of the metal, right?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
hauling of the metal and the lifting of them, all that. And so to just pour it out into a, pig mold is
Yeah.
counterproductive.
Yeah.
And so he made a pour back spout. That's pretty cool. Me, I just get the tall people.
Yeah.
Pour it back into the top of it.
Yeah.
Nowadays I have a couple of ingot molds right there.
Yeah.
So that we're not pigging out anything. We're pouring it into an ingot mold, popping it out while it's still glowing, and drop it back in.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Just cycle it in.
I just think about all of the suffering that everybody had to go through to get that metal and break it up,
Yeah.
move it around, and just to have to process more of it, and then be at the end of the pour saying, "Oh, we're out of metal." We have 10 more molds. And
Yeah.
everybody's going to go run over there and, gather up and break up some metal.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And so a little bit of, efficiency, I think is a good thing. Poor
Yeah.
guy.
Goes a long way.
Yeah. Like that. And it's not earth shattering or
Yeah.
what. And so those kinds of innovations are things that I like. Certainly, I'm not the first to recognize that, everybody came out of Carbondale made everything with 1/4 inch thick, 3/8 inch thick steel,
Uh-huh.
is castable for their ladles, so that you got to be pardon my, you got to be a Hulk just
Yeah.
just to pick it up,
Yeah.
without metal in it.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
not a very big person. And so I've gotten to where I make everything out of tubing with 1/8 with little struts in it that, will keep it from warping too much. I like to use those ladle liners,
Mm-hmm.
that way everybody can play,
Yeah.
even me. Right?
Yeah.
It's just embarrassing when the big guy, just kind of reaches out and pushes me back and says, David, we can handle this. Yeah, and that's a reality for people that are not big hulky dudes.
Yeah. Or women.
Well, that's
It's
what
a
I'm.
real. Yeah. So with the ladle, fiber ladles,
Yeah,
everyone can play.
yeah,
Because what's better? I mean, there's lots of great things about casting, but for me,
yeah.
I'm a ladle lover. I love that's my.
And I love those homemade ladles. You
Mm.
take fiber and dip
Oh
it in the
yeah.
binder and then spread your
Mm-hmm.
uh, shell on there.
Shell.
I love those.
Yeah.
Uh, um, so that kind of thing, I'm really into. Making things with wheels on them. And I'm always thinking about, well, how does this get from there to there?
Mm-hmm.
You can, while you're making molds, why don't you make that mold on a pallet, like that, and move it with a pallet jack into place. And, overheads are, of course, really great.
Yeah. When you
Yeah,
got them. Yeah.
we got a bridge train.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm, I wished I could take it with me, but
Mm. Yeah.
but like that. Let's see.
So we may be at the point, unless there's anything you want to talk about still, but we can talk about what you have hot on the horizon.
Hot on the horizon is what might be the last Iron Tribe, depending on who and if anybody comes here
Mm-hmm.
that's interested in doing that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the Iron Tribe is it's kind of like where I began. It's what showed me the light, kind of thing of here you can play a part at your institution where nobody seems to understand what you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or value it. Yeah, I have had one of my students left here and went to Los Alamos, cast plutonium, inside of a box. They're making batteries for the Army. The
Mm-hmm.
Army uses nuclear batteries. They never wear out.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, like that. I think there are some people that have gone and done things with what they did here, that was a meaningful experience, kind of deal. Um, but but having the show, and I send out invitations, and I think about the size of the space, and some people I do want to have every time, and then there's a contingent of people that I want to kind of rotate through. This time the Western board is showing at a gallery off campus, so it relieves some of that space, because there have been a couple of times when we had too much work.
Yeah.
It was just so stuffed in there that you just really, it was a challenge just to try to get your eyeballs over all
Yeah.
of it. And so I always like to include multiple mediums. There's some video and some painting in there. Sometimes there's some prints, and somebody's doing some digital prints that they're casting. And I'm kind of, that's what I learned how to do over COVID, was print things. And so, I'm making, I'm basically one of the maquettes for bigger steel things that I do, right?
Yeah.
Got the numbers on the book like that.
Is that you went to? Did you learn that from the workshop you went to in Germany?
I learned some things there.
Okay.
That was kind of it was good that I knew some things and that I printed some things before going there, but certainly I picked up on a couple of tricks there that,
Okay.
helper discs so that your raft doesn't peel up from the unheated bed.
Okay.
That's a function.
Uh-huh.
Kurt showed me that. And then using painter's tape.
Blue painter's tape.
Blue painter's tape. The plastic will stick to that better than it will the bed. Wow. So that's another thing. But just seeing how they go about, positioning the work when they're printing it. And of course, there's challenges with how long do you heat the shell to make sure all the filament is out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And, one kind of filament is not the same as another. Mm. That might be much. You might have been given the impression that they were the same, not. Wow. And so, I had some things printed. And so being able to work between what I had printed before, what I was going to print there, learn how to get the numbers on the book.
Uh-huh.
That's just a design thing in the program, but I did that immediately after I got back. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad I did that experience, but that wasn't the sole place that I learned how to do it. I got some months, maybe more, year beforehand. I had in 2015, I did a thing where I went to Tallahassee with John Rawlerson, who runs that American Craftsman program, and they routed some pieces for me that I went to Donnie Keene's and molded like that. So CNC routing is what I'd been doing before. Mm-hmm. And now I'm doing the printed. It's the same thinking process, just reversed. Mm-hmm. Carving down instead of building up like that. But carving into MDF and making rubber patterns is something I started in Sloss in 2000, was making rubber patterns. And so now I'm routing the pattern out, pouring rubber into it, and then you got something you can sand mold. Mm-hmm. Streamlines the process. You don't have to make each number at a time like that, and then the rubber peels out of the sand real easy.
Great. Let's see. So Hot on the Horizon. We got Iron Tribe coming up. You're also, I believe you're the juror for this national conference exhibition.
And not just that, but Toby is going to be the keynote. And so the Western is represented rather prominently this time. And I'm really happy for that. It's like, yes, we are the Western, and yes, we're kind of out there, not here.
Yeah.
We have something to contribute.
Absolutely, you do.
Yeah. I don't know a better speaker than Toby. Toby says, well, you should have been that guy. No, man, best one for the job. Mm. I'm doing what I like to do.
Yeah.
And I get to set up the show in that space. And I get some, I'll know what the work is before it gets there. Usually I'm just the guy helping, and you don't know what's going to show up.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Like with that one last time where they, everybody gets to show.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't know what a nightmare that was. Well, yes, you do. And you and Stacy were just like, y'all were rock solid. Y'all were like, boy, I'm glad they're here, because I'd be like losing my mind.
Yeah. It was
challenging.
I learned a lot from that, and I gave everything I had.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
That was, so I'm really happy to be the juror for it.
Yeah.
Of course, I'll put in as much work as I possibly can, but, not everybody's going to get to show this time.
Yeah.
And that's just a reality of space, because we don't have some of the other spaces that we had last time. We don't have that back 40 thing anymore.
Yeah. And I think that's also understandable as things grow. We have to
learn where to make some boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that everybody understands.
327 pieces.
Yeah.
327 pieces.
I know.
Huh.
It was hard. Yeah.
And
for 3 days.
Yeah.
For 3 days worth of we did so much work. Usually at my job at the St. Louis Art Museum, that would have taken a month.
Yeah.
And then it would have been up for 3 months.
Yeah.
We did it in days. There's people, they're rolling in Friday afternoon, and the show's like
no idea of what it was going to be.
Yeah. It was.
So I'm real happy to be in the spot.
Yeah.
Doing this and collaborating with my Western people too.
Yeah.
In this venue, and so there's that. For the first time ever, I don't know, probably first time in 15, 20 years. I don't know what I'm going to do next summer. I'm going to do something.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to be. I've gotten onto steel fab and making bigger pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And I really want to make some bigger pieces that I can maybe show around the country, like that.
Yeah.
I really enjoy the process, and when you got something small, you want everything to be together, meaning like a unified thing. But when you're making big stuff and you're not a big guy like me, right? I make everything so it comes apart.
Yeah.
But I can move each element, almost all the elements, by myself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I'm enjoying doing that.
Yeah. Well, so this is my first Iron Tribe, and it's been a bucket list thing ever since I think it was 2013 or something. And Isaac was living in Granite City doing the residency with 6 Mile, and he was going to Iron Tribe because why wouldn't he, and he said, well, are you going to come? And he said, you can ride with me, or you can ride out with us in his van. I can't remember if he had a van or a truck or whatever, but he was like, you got a seat.
Got a truck.
Yeah, you got a seat if you want it. And I didn't go. I didn't take the ride. And I always regretted it.
Oh, well.
And so finally I'm gonna fly out. And so what should I expect?
Thursday the 2nd.
Okay.
That evening is the performance pour.
Okay.
And it'll probably look a lot like it's got some of the same elements as there's some things we like doing more than once, like throwing it against that wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chinese invented that, and it was Patrick brought that over here. Tubes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Patrick Tubes came here and showed us that trick, and can't let go of it.
Man. Yeah.
I saw this one thing. I don't know whatever tube it was, but you take a little ladle and they throw about 5 pounds up in the air, and then a person across from them has a shovel and whacks it, and it boom. I think we're going to have to try that.
All right. Yeah.
There's going to be some thermite stuff going on with John Hockmeister. Mm-hmm. So there's a little crew of people coming to do stuff. It was Fenn, Sparkles the Clown.
Sparkles, yeah.
There was a time when he was just this kid from Mississippi going to school in Denver. We're
Yeah.
sitting there watching the people do their poi dancing, poi, fire dancing.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And he says, I want to learn how to do that, you know. And now
Wow.
he's all about it,
Yeah. And he's
And
very good.
wow. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's incredible the moves that he does.
Yeah.
And so we'll have some of that going on there, and he'll be doing one of his spinny splatter things, and
Yeah.
you know, so like that, and that's Thursday night,
Okay.
and then on Friday is the talking day.
Mm-hmm.
Exhibit receptions. We'll have 2 exhibit receptions.
Mm-hmm.
But first at 2:00 will be. This time we have a speaker. Now, we've had speakers and panels and like that before, mostly panels.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but our school has a visiting scholar fund where
Mm-hmm.
they have to come for 2 weeks, so it's kind of hard to find somebody sometimes. But
Yeah.
Diala Douglas, who is from Jordan,
Okay.
she's the only female MFA in Jordan. And we're teaming with the women's studies and the social justice programs.
Uh-huh.
We make overlap. And so she'll be coming and talking to classes and producing some work here, but she's going to be like our speaker for the Iron Tribe at 2:00. Then 3 to 5 will be the Iron Tribe reception. Then 5 to 7 will be the Pearl Snaps. That's the Western board in that other gallery show. And then from 7 to 9, we'll do slide roulette. Do you know slide roulette?
Yeah, I do. But
know
you can
that?
explain it. Explain it.
Yeah, this happened in 2000 when I went to Scotland for George's thing, and everybody had cleared out, right? And we got this big snowstorm, and it was like, I don't want to be out there in the workshop. It's cold and what,
Yeah.
And so we just stayed inside, and you know what we were doing, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
somewhere in there it was like, hey, what do you people make? And let's look at some slides.
Yeah.
And it was one of those long trays that goes, just kind of moves through the projector like that.
Yeah.
Get all our slides, and we did our little talkie thing. And that means another drink or two later, right? And
Yeah.
it was, hey, let's do something else. Let's dump them out, mix them up, and put them back in there. And this time, somebody else has to talk about it. And so we went through it, and somebody else's slide you could talk about.
Yeah.
And of course we were rolling on the floor, dying laughing. And so that became a thing for me. Was slide roulette, and everybody sends 5 slides. That's going to be there. You got to be there. So
Yeah.
Mix it all up, and as we're having our conversations and what, you got to pay attention, because if you don't speak, well, somebody else can.
Yeah.
And we've had people, like the Carbondale students showed up one time, and all of them had one of the same slide. And so every time it came up, somebody else would stand up and say something very different about it. It was hilarious, So that's what we'll do on Friday night, Saturday night. And then the production floor is the following day.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in the midst of all that stuff, people be going, have a drink down there at Isaac and Shauna's, art bar, right? Cool place. Food is great. All that, and so those kinds of things will be going on too.
Yeah.
And probably most people will be staying at the Plaza Hotel. I mean, I'm not trying to sell that, but staying where you want to.
Yeah.
But I know that some people will be staying there, and it's all, what's it, 3 blocks.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the beauty of a small town.
Yeah.
And hopefully when people pull into town, there's a big electric sign there, welcome Iron Tribe. So the town recognizes that, people coming here and, doing this is, well, this particular thing's kind of unique. Not
Yeah.
everyone has that kind of an activity. Like that.
All right. I can't wait. My God, I can't wait to just really finally get there and experience it. I think it's going to be, I mean, every iron pour that I go to changes my life in a different way. But I mean, like I told you, I don't know if I told you before. Yeah, it was before we started recording, but I've never been, that's one thing about being in this movement is I go to places for iron pours that I would never.
Yeah.
Why would I go to Vermilion, South Dakota? Like people my day job will, I'm going to Memphis, and they're like, oh, you're going to go to Graceland? Been to Memphis more than a handful of, like, more than I can count on my hands. Never been to Graceland. And it's not like a point of pride, or like, it's just like, there's just not enough time. Like, why would I leave my family reunion?
Yeah.
I mean, I bet it's a great place, but it's, I'm always vacationing in like Memphis or like, who goes to Birmingham for vacation? It's like, that's one of my 2 weeks of paid time off is going to Birmingham. So,
and when I'm driving across the country anymore, I don't really have to go stay at a motel if I don't want to.
Yeah.
There's so many of them, just all over the country. Hey, what's up?
Yep. Yeah.
I'm driving through. Can I crash on your couch? Like that. Everybody's, real kind about all that.
Oh yeah. Or I'll have, one friend, Alex, lives in Oklahoma, and he's going out to Indiana to go to sculpture trails for the weekend. Stops right in St. Louis overnight, stays with Rob and I, and then continues on to Indiana. And and so then we get to see him for just, a few hours, take him out to breakfast. It's good.
Yeah. You were in Memphis at the last fire.
Yeah, in May. Yeah.
That guy that came with me, I went to graduate school with Art Shirer.
Yeah.
And he lives in Dallas. And so I'm always driving through Dallas, because I go back to Louisiana, usually a couple times a year, but I'm always stopping there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get to see him and all, but that time it was, come go with me, man.
Yeah.
It was the first time he'd ever, it was always me leaving.
Yeah.
Getting in the truck and coming with me.
Yeah. And he had great stories.
Oh.
Great stories.
He's quite the orator, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
He starts talking when I show up, and he's still talking when I'm driving away.
I'm doing this like podcast interview stuff. I love listening to people talk. So it was right up my alley, those stories. Yeah.
Yeah. And hopefully he and I will be going to that again.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, it's fun.
All right. Well, I don't want to wear out my welcome in your day today. So let's go on over to the after show. Oh, I almost forgot. We need some advice, but I feel like you've given us advice already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, no, I think you should give us more, but there was a couple, I didn't write them down because I was so involved in the conversation, but there were certain things that I was like, ooh, that's a good advice. I can't think of any.
A couple things I should say. It's probably different for everybody as to what place in the process, there's all these steps, what place in the process is really, get you going, like a ceramic shell, right? But that sensation of pouring metal into a mold, I live for that. Every time I do that, I think about when's the next time I'm going to get to do that. And if I can pour out of a bull ladle, oh man, it's like, when you hit that spot on a dog when you're petting them and their leg starts to feel like that. Yeah, pouring out of a bull ladle is that for me.
Yeah.
And so I always want to get to that point again.
Yeah.
And I know, and what it does is it draws me through the process. Well, okay, I got to go make a mold if I want to do that again.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta fix my truck if I want to drive there to do that again. Everything becomes a kind of, need to get to that spot where you're
Yeah. Yeah.
dumping that metal again. And so, I mean, I know that that is a thing that has always, really spurred me on,
Hmm.
and I, well, just that's the way it worked out for me,
Hmm.
that that's how I just kept going.
Yeah.
But there's a thing that Matt said and that I really agree with is that, when you're, with all these people that cross paths, maybe not all of them are going to be, your cup of tea sort of thing, and that can't really be helped. But I think that over time we should all try to learn how to be as forgiving as possible, and try to, well, what'd you say? Um, Ira said, you got to let it go.
Let it go.
If somebody rubs you the wrong way, let it go. And maybe next time you see him, you be open to having a different experience with them.
Yeah.
Have a different conversation. Talk about something, that maybe you both, going to share some mutual ground with, that kind of thing. Burning bridges is never a good idea.
Hmm.
Now, maybe sometimes, maybe I don't want to cross that bridge, but try to be the P word. Nobody likes the P word. Patient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nobody likes
Yeah.
that word. Oh, you mean I gotta wait?
Yeah.
Because waiting is part of being patient.
Yeah.
So yeah, just be patient with each other. In the long run, you may find some things that make your life better from that person. So
Mm.
maybe you can, just find yourself in a better place.
Yeah. And
Yep.
in a certain way, it's like a lot. We're all going to these things and crossing paths because we have a goal, like a collective goal,
Yep.
either individual benefit, but I mean, we talked about it before and it's come up a lot in the podcast is it's like you can't do it alone, or it's a lot harder to do it alone. It's more enjoyable with the C word, the community, but it's like it's, it's like
I think that Noah said it the best so far in my ears was, by helping each other accomplish our goals, we help ourselves, right, accomplish our own goals.
Mhm.
Uh, and I think that works, not just physically, but also kind of through your kind of art development process.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know, that you find yourself right next to somebody that might be 40 years older than you or 40 years younger than you.
Yeah.
That thing. And none of that matters. It's just the activity and our movement and our rhythm and and yes, our safety, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
So I think that's the best I got.
Mhm. And it's good. It's really good. And I like it. All right. So we're going to go on over to the after show. Well, so before we say goodbye to the public audience, though, do you have anything you want to tease that we're going to talk about in the after show? So we have usually it's like a specific memory or a specific story about that one time I was at that place and something happened, and then we'll go talk
We've
about
got
it.
a bunch of those, but
Yeah.
they may not be very long stories, but yeah, meeting Dan Hunt meant that I met and worked with Andy Griffiths, right? And going to Wales was just another extraordinary experience.
All right. So we'll start there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then this is the part where we like kind of awkwardly say goodbye to the public audience, because you and I know we're going to talk for another however long you'll let me listen to you. But so we're going to say goodbye to everybody who's listening and watching publicly. If you want to come over to the after show, I hope you do, so you can hear all these great stories and all the other ones from all the other episodes are waiting for you over there. So you can catch up on everything you've missed out on. But for now, thanks so much for tuning in. And David, thank you for being my guest. It's been fantastic. And
Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
yeah, we'll see you all in the next one. Okay, bye. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I bet your mind is just as blown as mine was after this conversation with David. His stories are great, but also his approach to life and art helped me remember that we've all got plenty of time if we just stay consistent and engaged in our practice. David, you're the best. Thank you for taking so much time out of your day for this interview and for being so open and honest about your life. Your views on life, art, and iron casting are stimulating and inspirational. And I'm so grateful that you've explained the life theme of an individual's contribution to society. I completely look at my life and even why I'm doing this podcast with a new sense of pride and fulfillment. So thank you. And now, thank you to the top supporters of this show for helping me to capture these snapshots of our community members as they recount their iron art origin stories. Thank you, Sloss Metal Arts, for being a top supporter, and we're all looking forward to heading to Birmingham and visiting your site for the national conference this April 5th through the 8th. And folks, registration is open, so go online, get your tickets. I already got mine. Go get yours. Let them know you're coming. And thank you to the Western Cast Iron Art Alliance for joining as a top supporter of this show. I am so honored and encouraged to have your support, and I'm excited to be able to help you get the word out about your events as they develop. So yes, thank you, Sloss Metal Arts and the Western Cast Iron Art Alliance for supporting this podcast, as well as our other individual supporters on Patreon. The funds that they contribute are invaluable to helping me continue to produce these episodes. So in return for their support, I offer the after show recordings from each episode. And by now, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that it's an extra 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes more, with each show's guest where we talk a little more candidly and share at least one more iron story. So if you want to see or hear today's after show and get access to all the earlier after shows from the previous episodes, you can do that for as little as $1 a month. And go to our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/thepodcastiron, where you can choose a contribution level that fits within your budget. But supporters at any level, from $1 all the way up, get access to the after show from each episode. If you don't have it in your budget to support the podcast Iron on Patreon, that's okay. Instead, please share this podcast with someone you think would be interested in listening or watching, and I'll appreciate that just as much. Anything and everything helps. And for that, I say thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you want to get in touch with me, you can email me at thepodcastiron@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening and watching. I'm sending you all my love always, and I can't wait to share the next episode with you. I'll talk to you soon, and have a great day.